And we're beginning with an exclusive news break here on India Today. We've accessed a report which reveals that the farmer stir has created COVID hotspots. Several Kisan Mahapanchayats and Andolans in Punjab and Haryana led to a huge spike in coronavirus cases. The second wave is raging on and it's claiming several lives, but the farmers have not called off their strike. Here are the details you need to know. This is an exclusive report.
200 days. That's how long the farmers' protest has been raging on. And despite a deadly COVID second wave, the protesters are in no mood to relent. Now, a report accessed exclusively by India Today reveals that the farm stir created COVID hotspots. Kisan Mahapanchayats and Andolans that were held across the states of Punjab and Haryana led to a huge spike in coronavirus cases. Punjab's Bhundar village has been sending a batch of 6 farmers every week to the capital's borders to protest against the 3 farm laws. The village has now been declared a containment zone, with over 138 farmers found to be COVID positive and 6 deaths being reported within a week. There are a dozen such villages including Fapre Bhaika, Joga and Lohgarh that have also been declared containment zones. The story is no different in Haryana. A state government report on COVID infections in villages accessed by India Today found over 804 deaths in 22 Rohtak villages, which are located within 100 kilometers from 3 protest sites. Over 45 villages have been declared containment zones in Haryana.
किसानों से अपील की जा रही थी कि आप बॉर्डर्स पर बैठे हैं, वैक्सीनेशन करा लीजिए, हरियाणा सरकार आपकी मदद करे।
सब बातें तो हमारी अपनी है प्रदेश की, लेकिन जो केंद्रीय नेताओं से मेरी बातचीत हुई है इस संदर्भ में सारे विषयों की जानकारी उनको दी है और इससे सारी बातों को तो एक प्रकार से अवगत कराया गया उनको और सब धैर्य रख करके हम आगे बढ़ेंगे।
10 Haryana villages have witnessed over 239 mysterious deaths in 2 weeks. These villages are located in Hisar, Rohtak, Sonipat, Bhiwani and Jhajjar districts.
जहाँ तक हमारे ज़िले की बात है तो हमारे मुगली एरिया का जो बुराई एरिया है इसमें भी केसेस बढ़े हैं और बाकी जो हमारा गन्नौर और कोहना का एरिया था इनमें भी केसेस थे। वैक्सीनेशन वहाँ पे स्टार्ट की गई है तो अभी 2200 के आसपास वहाँ पे वैक्सीनेशन तो कराई। जहाँ कहीं भी मिक्सिंग है वहाँ डेफिनेटली ये तो है कि वहाँ केसेस बढ़ते ही बढ़ते हैं, बिल्कुल बढ़ते हैं।
At the Tikri border, 2 protesters have already died due to COVID-19. Bharatiya Kisan Union Chief Jogendra Singh Ugrahan himself tested positive in March. Several protesters are symptomatic but are refusing to get tested.
डेड बॉडी आई थी बलबीर सिंह सन ऑफ मक्खन सिंह, कुंडली फार्मा एजुकेशन साइट से आई थी, कल रात को आई थी। पुलिस की रिक्वेस्ट थी कि उसका कोविड-19 टेस्ट किया जाए तो रैपिड एंटीजन टेस्ट में बॉडी पॉजिटिव आई है।
हमारे 400 के करीब किसान उनकी डेथ हो चुकी है, सभी का आज तक पोस्टमार्टम हुआ है, किसी का कोरोना पॉजिटिव नहीं आया और अब सरकार का एक षड्यंत्र है, सरकार की एक चाल है। किसान को बुखार हुआ ही नहीं तो पुलिस क्यों लिख रही है कि इसको बुखार है 2 दिन से और जानबूझकर ये लिखने के बाद जहाँ पे उसका मतलब कोविड टेस्ट करवाया, जानबूझकर उसका कोविड को पॉजिटिव की रिपोर्ट दी गई सिर्फ आंदोलन को बदनाम करने के लिए।
Besides the crowds at the Delhi border protest sites, over 15 major Kisan rallies, Mahapanchayats and political rallies also contributed to COVID surge. Protesters and farm union leaders fear that the stir will lose its steam if it's called off. But can it continue at the cost of rising infections and deaths due to coronavirus? With Manjeet Sehgal, Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me on this broadcast, on that exclusive news break on India Today, is Mr. Vinit Joshi, senior BJP leader. But before I get in an opinion from the BJP on exactly what they have to say about this report and what's really being done by the government to ensure that this spread is arrested, let's get the details of the story first from Manjeet Sehgal. He's reporting live from Chandigarh. And Manjeet, just tell us, what has the government done so far to try and reach out to farmer leaders to end this stir? Because it's been 200 days now, and amid a pandemic, this is the last thing we need.
Well, Akshita, as far as the government is concerned, the Chief Minister himself has been appealing to these farmer unions to come for testing and to just call off their steer amid the rising and the second surge. But, all these farmer unions have turned down the request and said the government was trying to derail their protest. The government was trying to defame their protest. So they refused. They haven't come for the testing at the 3 sites as well. And the farmer leaders are continuously asking farmers not to worry, as there were no COVID patients at these sites. But now the truth has been revealed, which the farmer unions have been hiding. And as far as government action is concerned, in various Haryana villages, more than 45 villages in 6 to 7 districts have been declared as pandemic zones, as containment zones, where testing is being done as war shooting, and the officials are regularly visiting the people. But still, people are dying under mysterious circumstances, and these cases are not being audited, not being reported to the administration. It means that these people who might have been infected by the protesters, by their other neighbors, have already infected various people. More than 239 people, such deaths took place in 6 Haryana districts. This is a big question, as most of these cases are still not reported as COVID cases.
There are cases being reported at the protest site. There are cases, as Manjeet pointed out, at villages surrounding these protest sites in Punjab, in Haryana. I want to get your perspective from the Bharatiya Janata Party, and Vineet Joshi is joining me. He's a senior BJP leader. Mr. Vineet Joshi, when we spoke to these farmer leaders about this issue of their protests perhaps turning into a hotspot of COVID-19, they're calling this a conspiracy. They're saying that the government is planting these test results.
Good morning, everybody, and I wish that most of people in India, they'll recover fast from corona pandemic. Coming back to the point, a guideline, a circular, a notice, a do's and don't have been issued by World Health Organization, WHO. They say you should maintain distance, you should put up your mask, and you should get yourself vaccinated. These farmer organization, ye kisan sangathan, they are continuously opposing all the 3 guidelines internationally issued by WHO, not by Government of India. Now, when you go to Punjab, you see there's a surge in rural area. There's a village called Bhundar. It has a population of around 3,500. In single one day, there were 116 positive people detected by Health Department of Punjab. The same is case with village Lambi also. Same is case with in Taran also. There's one village called Manakpur. So in whole of the Punjab, wherever these farmers are participating in the protest at Singhu border or Tikri border, we see a surge, and they talk in a very silly manner. They oppose the guidelines which are issued by WHO, not by Government of India.
It's true that they're not wearing masks. It's true that they don't maintain social distancing. I just also want to bring in Mr. Vineet Joshi's colleague here, Gaurav Bhatia of the BJP, who's joining us on this broadcast. Gaurav Bhatia, the contention of these farmer leaders, whenever we ask them about their protest being a COVID hotspot, about why they're not wearing masks, their immediate contention is what was done about political rallies? Why was that allowed? What happened at the Kumbh Mela? Why was that allowed? What's your answer to that?
This question should be posed to Captain Amarinder Singh, and I'll give you the reasons why. First of all, the entire country should unite right now and prioritize to fight the pandemic of COVID. We need to defeat that, and then we can also talk about civil liberties like protest. But the Honorable Supreme Court very categorically said that blocking of roads, blocking public spaces for protest is illegal, unconstitutional. But yet Captain Amarinder Singh looked the other way when farmers from Punjab were coming to Delhi and they were protesting. Second, is it also not important that state governments, because law and order is a state subject, should take immediate action, and if there has to be a protest, then it has to be at a designated site. Third, the unfortunate part is that all throughout, these protests have been political in nature, because these three laws for which the so-called farmers were protesting were all stayed by the Honorable Supreme Court.
But
And the saddest part is...
Gaurav Bhatia, a couple of points. One is, again, the farmer leaders, in their defense of their action, are saying that you allowed other mass events to happen. You allowed political rallies to happen. Why are we being singled out? Second is, you said that Captain Amrinder Singh is responsible, the Punjab government is responsible. Yes, the farmers are coming from Punjab. There's a similar problem also in Haryana, Gaurav.
Let me state it this way right now. If you say that farmers are saying this in their defense, a defense doesn't mean it's a valid and a good defense. And that is why I was speaking legally to you. And I must tell you that maximum number of farmers were coming from Punjab even to Haryana and Delhi. And the point that I wish to raise is that leaders like Rakesh Tikait, who declare themselves to be farmer leaders, themselves got inoculated. And they never cared about the other farmers who were protesting. So is it not a valid concern right now of the Bharatiya Janata Party that saving lives should be our priority and all such protests should be suspended? And especially in light of the second COVID wave that has happened, I think the country needs to unite. And yesterday, the Punjab minister himself, Mr. Bajwa, if I recall correctly, had admitted that this surge in cases, Punjab having the highest mortality rate in the country, is also due to the protests that are taking place in the name of farmers.
Get that data right. Gaurav Bhatia, thank you for joining us and putting forth your opinion on this. I want to bring in again Manjeet Sehgal, who's reporting from Chandigarh. Manjeet, Gaurav Bhatia is saying that Punjab has one of the highest mortality rates because of this farmer protest. Is there data to corroborate that? Is it from, close to the protest sites that we're seeing maximum cases? Second, has this been raised also by the BJP, by other parties, with the Punjab Chief Minister, with the government?
Well, Akshita, here if we talk about the data, first let us talk about the rallies. More than 15 major rallies took place in Punjab and Haryana, and most of them were organized in Punjab. First, it started by the Congress itself. Rahul Gandhi had organized a 3-day tractor rally, and it was followed by Aam Aadmi Party, and then farmer unions, then even the Shiromani Akali Dal. So all political parties and farmers have been organizing the rallies. Even Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh had recently banned all political rallies. But despite the government orders, farmer unions have been organizing rallies. The cases have also been registered against them, but government was not arresting, not taking any action against these people. They were given a free hand. That is why the cases spiked, particularly in those districts, in those areas where a crowd of thousands of people was arranged by these politicians, these activists. So now the government has asked the farmer unions to temporarily stop their protests. On 8th of May, farmers organized a protest against the COVID lockdown. The chief minister had asked them and appealed them not to organize this protest, but despite chief minister's orders, this statewide protest was organized. It means farmer unions are not taking these
Manjeet, I request you to stay on with me. We're getting in a reaction also from Mr. Daljit Singh Cheema of the Akali Dal. Mr. Cheema, the fact that we're now seeing a rise in cases amid the farmer protesters and also in nearby villages, isn't this a cause of concern now? And is this the time perhaps for all political parties to appeal to the farmer leaders to end their stir amid a pandemic?
Actually, the best way to end the agitation will be that Government of India should accept their demands. COVID is everywhere. Numbers are not less in Punjab even. Even in remote villages of Punjab, there are a large number of COVID cases. Death rate is already highest in the state of Punjab. So why they are blaming the borders only, Tikri borders and other borders? If the Government of India is so concerned, why don't they end this agitation by accepting their demands?
The contention of the BJP, Mr. Chima, and we've spoken to several BJP leaders, they're saying that we have met majority of the demands of these farmer leaders. Secondly, they're saying that look, if you look at the data that's coming in on the number of COVID cases in Punjab, it's all in the rural areas. And they're saying that's because of these farmers who've been participating in these protests. The message here essentially is that farmer leaders are continuing the agitation. There's no masks. There's no social distancing to be maintained. Can we allow that in a pandemic?
The government of India should also explain why the number is so high in Delhi. They are sitting outside Delhi, but why the number is so high inside Delhi? Maximum deaths are taking place inside Delhi. Maximum number of cases are there in Delhi also. So what's the reason for that? So they should not link COVID to the agitation. It looks odd, and it irritates also the farmers of the country. The best way they should resolve the issue, and it's in their hand to resolve the issue, but they're not doing it. They're simply playing a blame game, and they're time and again they're trying to give bad name to the agitation.
So, Mr. Chima, can you tell us really what is the Akali Dal stand? Do you still stand by the farmers' protest continuing 200 days on?
Definitely, nothing has changed.
Okay.
The demand of the farmers is that all these 3 farmer laws, they should be taken back. The government of India has not done that. So nothing has changed on ground.
Right. Mr. Daljit Chima, thank you very much for joining us. So the Akali Dal maintaining that the onus is on the government, not on these protesting farmers. Manjeet, thank you for joining us with those details. Before I wrap up this story, I just want to get one final word from Mr. Vineet Joshi, BJP leader who is joining us. Mr. Vineet Joshi, not sure if you heard that reaction that came in from the Akali Dal. They're saying that the government is accountable, that if you want the farmer protest to end, give in to the farmers' demands.
देखिए पंजाब के अंदर शिरोमणि अकाली दल ने अपनी जो विधानसभा शहर रैलियां थी वो बंद कर दी क्योंकि कोरोना पंजाब में है। दूसरी तरफ किसान संगठन पंजाब के अंदर 15-20 हज़ार की कई सारी रैलियां पिछले 10-12 दिन में कर चुके हैं, उस पर ये चुप हो जाते हैं। पंजाब सरकार 200 से ऊपर लोगों के शादी के अंदर इकट्ठे होने पे FIR दर्ज करती है, लेकिन अमृतसर में 20,000 किसान भक्तावाला में इकट्ठे होते हैं, उसके ऊपर चुप कर जाते हैं। तो आज पंजाब के गांव के अंदर जो कोरोना बढ़ रहा है उसके लिए किसान संगठन, पंजाब सरकार का दोहरा रवैया और शिरोमणि अकाली दल, आम आदमी पार्टी जैसी पार्टियों का दोहरा रवैया जिम्मेवार है।
Okay, Mr. Vineet Joshi, thank you for joining us with your perspective and your opinion on this. Clearly, this